Next American Sports Pro. The place you want to be. The hottest new that talks about what high school athletes to watch, college players that are under the radar, semi-pro athletes that are getting a look from the pros, international players killing it overseas. We're talking the Next American Sports Pro. Hey, do you have what it takes? Go to www.nextamericansportspro.com and register today. Exposure is the name of the game. If you can't be found, you can't be seen. Get your profile online and get discovered today at www.nextamericansportspro.com. We're talking the Next American Sports Pro. Hey, do you have what it takes? Go to www.nextamericansportspro.com and register today at www.nextamericansportspro.com.
All right. All right.
Yard Brawl podcast. We are your one-stop shop for inside information on the MAC. I'm Todd Worley, and with me is Memphis Spence.
Hey.
We've got an awesome show on tap for you today. What we're going to do, we're going to take a closer look at Buffalo had a huge win at NIU, 23-20 in overtime. We're going to take a deep dive into that game. And we're also going to take a closer look at our game of the week this week, which is the Akron versus Ohio game. First up, we've got the MAC Yard Brawl whip around.
This is Patty and with the Bowling Green Sentinel Tribune. How you doing? It's a big day for Bowling Green. First, just finishing the last two games against two ranked teams, Penn State and Texas A&M, losing both games by a touchdown. It's been a little bit disheartening for the Falcons to be 1-2 right now when you consider what they've done. Matter of fact, Coach Scott Leffler said when they flew home from Texas, from College Station, this team was down and out. They were not happy. They wanted to beat Texas A&M, and they felt like both Penn State and Texas A&M were wins for them, or could have been wins for them. And they're not really calling it a moral victory at all. So they go host Old Dominion this week. They face Old Dominion for the first time in program history. It's a homecoming game. And Harold Fanning is leading the nation among tight ends and receiving yards right now. 145 yards receiving against Texas A&M Saturday. And quarterback Connor Bazelak needs just 22 passing yards to reach the 10,000 for his career. He's fifth in the nation among active players in career passing yards. Injuries, not much to report on Bowling Green's side. One lineman went down, but Coach Leffler thinks that he can be ready to go, if not for Old Dominion, by the time MAC play opens a week after that for Bowling Green. So things are looking up for BG despite a 1-2 record, but don't tell the players that. They're not happy with the way things turned out, and hosting Old Dominion is a chance for them to get a bounce back. So we'll talk to you soon, Todd.
Hey there, Maction fans. This is Cade Hampton with the Star Press here in Muncie, Indiana, bringing you another quick update on the Ball State Cardinals. Last week, Ball State suffered a tough loss in their MAC opener, losing 37-34 on the road to Central Michigan. It was a great game for the offense. Quarterback Caden Samanza had one of his best days of his college career, and tight end Tanner Kozial went over 100 yards receiving and a touchdown. Wide receivers Cam Pickett and Malcolm Gilley also stepped up with a touchdown in the absence of Justin Bowick and Ty Robinson, who are both still expected to be out this week. Special teams also played great against Central Michigan. They blocked a punt, blocked an extra point, had great kick coverage all day. This week, the Cardinals will travel to Harrisonburg, Virginia to take on James Madison. And James Madison is coming off one of the most impressive Group of 5 wins this season, a 70-50 victory over North Carolina. So it'll be a tough matchup for the Cardinals going against an undefeated, good-looking Dukes team. But, with this offense, they should be able to hang in there with them.
In other scores, Kent State lost 56-0 at Penn State. They host Eastern Michigan to begin conference play this week. Miami of Ohio lost 28-3 at Notre Dame, and they return home to Oxford to host UMass this week. Central Michigan beat Ball State in a thriller to open MAC play. They won 37-34. And the Chippewas host San Diego State this week. Eastern Michigan won 36-0 at home against FCS St. Francis, and they traveled to Kent State to open MAC play this week. Toledo lost a heartbreaker at Western Kentucky 26-21, and the Rockets have a bye this week. The Akron Zips lost 50-7 at South Carolina, and they play at Ohio this week to begin conference play. As we mentioned, NIU lost a tough one in overtime at home to Buffalo 23-20. But the Huskies have an opportunity to get back on the horse, and with another P4 game this week playing at NC State. Western Michigan was off last week and heads to Marshall this week. The Yard Brawler of the week is Buffalo linebacker Sean Dolak. If you haven't seen this guy play, that you need to do yourself a favor and check him out as soon as possible. He's instinctive. He's a downhill guy, impressive explosiveness and range. You want to look at the stats from the NIU game where he led them to that big win. He had 19 tackles, 4.5 tackles for a loss, which is really impressive, and an interception late in the game that set up a key field goal for Buffalo to come out with a win.
Key interception, man. That actually made the game. When I was watching it, I was like, oh my goodness. He's been everywhere, and I didn't know that he was one of the leading tacklers in the nation until that game. And I found out really quickly why a lot of pro teams are interested in him.
They are, and he's a former walk-on, which is incredible. There are so many, we put this out on X, there are so many P4 programs out there that don't have anyone in their linebacking core that's as good as Sean Dolak is. And then here he is, a former walk-on starring at Buffalo. Really, really impressive story. Really interesting story for him to develop like this, and then also for the Buffalo staff to find him and develop him. And we touch on that coming up now. We've got Rachel Lenzi from the Buffalo News. She's going to go in depth about the win at NIU and talks about Sean Dolak and talks about the game the Bulls have this week at UConn.
Let's get in it.
NIU had one of the biggest wins of the college football season, winning in South Bend. Then they come home and they open up against Buffalo to begin conference play. And the Buffalo Bulls go on the road and score a massive win in overtime over NIU. Joining us now is Rachel Lenzi from the Buffalo News. How are you, Rachel?
Hi, Todd. How are you?
Doing well. It's an exciting week in the MAC here. We're excited about it.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Talk about the win, like what the keys were to coming out with an OT win.
I could summarize the whole game by saying watching NIU and Buffalo, it was like a 12-round prize fight. Teams were swinging. It was very much a defensive game. But at the same time, in the first half, UB's offense was not consistent. I think they had one drive of more than 3 yards in the first half. The defense really kept that team going and kept them in the game. But NIU took this 14-3 lead. They were just, I don't want to say a well-oiled machine, because that's a little too cliche, but they were efficient in building that lead. But you really saw the resolve of Buffalo. I've covered this team for 6 seasons. This is my 7th year covering them. And the last couple seasons, I think if a team at UB had been down 14-3 at halftime, the attitude would have been, let's just survive and get this over with. This year, it was different. They got a couple explosive plays on a long catch and double coverage by Victor Snow for a touchdown, and then a long run by Aljae Henderson to come back within striking distance. And then took the lead on Upton Belenfont's second field goal, the double bird heard around the world at this point in the MAC. And in overtime, it really was a matter of just UB's defense. They wanted to play defense first to stop the run, contain Northern Illinois, and then they blocked a field goal. So defense and special teams really worked well together, complementary football, as they call it. And in the second, in UB's, when UB went on offense at overtime, it was the same thing. It was like, let's just manage enough to stay alive. And Belenfant scored the game-winning field goal, which is kind of wild for a player who was injured during most of training camp and wasn't even the number one kicker. So it really was an element of resolve we saw on UB, something we have not seen in this team, probably not since Lance Leipold coached it a few years ago.
Wow. That was so impressive for any team to pull out a win like that, but then to be under a first-year coaching staff doing that was so impressive to me from the outside. What were the players saying in the locker room after the game in terms of how they felt they played, what they thought the keys were to winning the game, how they stuck together?
It really was. It was really about their belief in each other. You know, Sean Dolak talked to reporters after the game. He's really, the emotional leader of this team. He's he came back to, and part of his emphasis of coming back was helping this team win and really turn around the program. The thing that kept saying was we saw a lot of resolve. We saw a lot of resiliency of this team, something that, to be honest, this team had been lacking over the last couple of years as well. This team, they just did not give up. Again, like I'd seen so many times in the last 2-3 years, the team was just like, all right, let's just get through it, which is not the attitude anymore. Their attitude is, and they said this after the game, going into overtime, we're going to go out and win this game. We fought this far. We got to thread the needle. That's really, really what you took from this team. And it gave this team a very important emotional lift, again, among a first-year coaching staff, among a first-year head coach. Pete Lembo is not a first-year head coach. He's been around the game quite a bit. But it really said, and the players, even this week have said that they will be the first to say, we have seen such a difference in the entire mood and psyche of this program over the last 8 months under Pete Lembo.
What do you think? That's such an interesting point. What do you think the key is to that change? Just a new staff, or what do you think that is?
I think it's a new staff. I think it's a new attitude. I think there is more accountability in the program, taking responsibility for the things you do, following through and completing tasks, little things. Pete wants his players to be ingrained, not just in the program and the athletic department, in the school. I mean, he's, there's so much of that. And I don't want to say there's a swagger among this program. There's definitely more confidence and more of a belief. And I think that came in one day. If you meet Pete Lembo, he's this very even keel guy. He values every relationship he has with people. And he came in and said, let's start fresh. Let's start new. Let's see what we can build here. That was really it was really a change of attitude and a change in, the players getting more respect and treated better. I mean, even when Pete came in, I remember when he was introduced in January, talking to athletic department people, and there was just this sense of relief around the program. Like, all right, we've got something new here. Let's see what we can do with this.
That's interesting. So you touched on the Victor Snow touchdown, and I know, so that stage of the game, NIU looked like they were out playing Buffalo in all three phases at that point. And then, so I believe it was Buffalo has the ball at NIU's 46-yard line. It's 2nd and 7. So if that pass is incomplete, it's 3rd and 7. NIU makes one more play. Buffalo's not even a field goal range. Who knows if Buffalo ever gets back into the game? They throw the deep pass in the end zone to the smallest guy on the field. He's 5'8", 170. He's surrounded by two bigger defensive backs from NIU, and he makes the play somehow. To me, that was definitely the play of the game. And then,
absolutely.
Could be the play of the season if Buffalo makes a run at this thing. What was said, whether by Victor or by some other people in the program, about that play?
I talked with Caleb Haynes, the wide receivers coach, yesterday, and he said, I couldn't tell if he caught it or not. Not in that he doubted Victor Snow, but he couldn't see it. The guy was in double coverage. Victor Snow is 5'8" on a good day. And he's being covered by a safety and a cornerback that are 6'1", 6'2". So I'm up in the press box. I couldn't even, I even turned to people and said, did he catch that? Are we sure? And sure enough, he pops up, the single touchdown. The ball is in his hands. And I said, well, there's the doubt. And I even said to a couple of people, I said, that's changing the energy of this game. That's giving UB that confidence. We go back to, it was a 46-yard pass. We go back to UB needed explosive plays. The big gain, 15 yards or more plays. And, they got those on two of the most pivotal plays of the game, the 2 touchdowns. That's what they needed. They needed to make that offensive production. And I was talking with a couple analysts the week before the UMass game. A couple of them said UB needs to create more big-time explosive plays. I mean, they can do it. They have the tools. They just got to, again, I use the term again, thread the needle. They've got to do that. And that's a matter of repetition and practice.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head, both with the Victor Snow play, but then also Al-Jay Henderson's long run in the fourth quarter. I think that was 3rd and 7, kind of on the edge of field goal range, if I remember, and Buffalo's down by 7. And amazing play call on 3rd and 7 defensively. You're thinking it's a pass, obviously.
Right.
UB offense calls a running play, surprises NIU, and hits a big play on that. Amazing call, amazing run by him. What was said about the thinking behind the play call and the execution for the touchdown?
It was the same thing. It was like, Aljay Henderson's field vision, saw the hole, the offensive lineman opened up the holes for him as well. And it was one of these, you got to keep running. I mean, that was what it was. I mean, Aljay Henderson pretty much put everything into it. UB has a running back by committee approach. You're going to see a different guy kind of pop up every game. It's been Jaquez Barksdale. It's been Lamar Sperling. Now it's Aljay Henderson's turn. And I'm generally not a fan of that. I'm a big believer in the bell cow back, as I've said before, but at this point it's working. They have different styles of running backs that can adapt to different plays. And kind of this was Aljay Henderson's time to see what the defense gave him, see what the offensive line gave him, open up and do this as well. And, he really, again, another momentum change in play in there as well. I shouldn't say momentum changing because I would say the momentum was in UB's favor, but it really kind of helped them the impetus take that into the end of the 4th quarter and into overtime as well.
And if NIU gets a stop there, they maintain the lead, and maybe they just hang on for dear life and win that in regulation. And then I thought those two plays, if either of those two plays goes the other way, NIU probably wins the game. But that's what those games come down to is your playmakers making a big play. And that's what Buffalo did. That's how you win
And speaking of big plays, Sean Dolak's 53-yard interception return, that was the one that, I would say basically, again, firmly, figuratively and literally put the ball in the hands, that set up Upton Belenfont's field goal as well, too. Went ahead 20-17. And, it was like, okay, they can do this. Defense, obviously, Northern Illinois was able to kick that field goal towards the end of regulation. But overtime, it wasn't like, oh, God, we have overtime. We have to defend ourselves. It was like overtime. They said, let's go out and win this. UB was stout in that approach.
Next up, we've got our Yard Brawl of the week, and it is Akron at Ohio. Big one for both teams as they both open up MAC play. Akron's had a tough first 4 weeks of the season, going 1-3, with the one win being at home against FCS Colgate in a game that the Zips trailed 17-0. Akron played 3 P4 programs and lost in lopsided fashion in all 3. But this is a chance to possibly right the ship. So we've got Drew Baily. He's a sports director of WZIP-FM, which is the University of Akron student-run radio station. Big game this week in Athens. What's the I know it's been a rough non-conference slate for the Zips, but the good thing about it is now conference play starts. Everybody starts with a clean slate, and they've got a big one in Athens this weekend. What's the vibe in the Akron program after what happened in the non-conference schedule and heading into this game at OU?
Yeah, I think it is a clean slate. We had 3 big bye games, which is just obviously the nature of college football, where the small schools need to get paid by the big guys sometimes. So we funded our athletic department nicely with games at Ohio State and Rutgers and South Carolina, and that went about as expected, I think. So I think we're ready to put that non-conference slate behind us and just start clean with this MAC conference slate.
Definitely. What do you sense is the confidence level among the players right now heading into conference play?
I like to think it's high. I mean, it's probably difficult after big losses, like I said, to Ohio State, Rutgers, and South Carolina. And we haven't won at Ohio since 2004. So I'm sure the players are confident. I'm sure Coach Moorhead is trying to, preach to them that we can't look at the past and can't look at the last few weeks. But I don't know. Like to think we're confident going into MAC play, but also it's hard to look past what's happened in the last few weeks and the last few years against OU.
Right. I think there have been some bright spots, like the first half against Ohio State. There were some highlights against Rutgers. They hung tough with South Carolina for a bit. So, I mean, hopefully they can pull the positives out and try to correct some of the negatives and then see what can happen in conference play. Are there any key injuries that you're aware of right now?
Yeah, Alex Adams, we're not really sure what's going on with him. He was our leading receiver back in 2022, caught 9 touchdowns, I think close to 1,000 yards. didn't play, I don't think, at all last year. And he dressed against Colgate, which was our home opener, was expected to play, didn't end up playing. The update we've heard with that is that he has a lower body injury. That's what Coach Moorhead's had to say about that, and hasn't said much more. So not sure when he's going to come back, but that would be a nice addition to our receiving core. And then on the defense, Shimon Cooper, he has played 1 year with the Zips. I think he had like 57 tackles, I want to say, last year. Transferred from Illinois. He could be a big help out at the linebacker position. Not sure his status, but he has not played yet this season.
Gotcha. Okay. So like you mentioned, Akron struggled on the road at Ohio in recent years. What do you think the keys are to winning this game this week?
I think it's limiting, number one, Ohio's rushing attack. We've struggled just in general against the running game. Colgate had a running quarterback in Michael Brescia. We saw South Carolina, Robbie Ashford ran all over us, and he was their backup. So we've just struggled to stop the run game. And then offensively, we need to establish our own running game. I think our offensive line and our backs collectively, that's been our weak spot on the offensive end. We've seen Ben Finley, I think, kind of catch his stride with some of his receivers, but we've had almost nothing in that running game. And I think as we get into MAC conference play, that's really important. And, the MAC is a rushing conference, I think, traditionally, and we need to figure that out.
Of course. So on a macro level, you've got, I've been to Akron's indoor facility and their stadium also, and arguably the nicest facility in the MAC when you combine the stadium and the practice facility and the offices and everything. And you're in a fertile recruiting area. What do you think? So to me, I feel like of any school in the conference, Akron is kind of a sleeping giant, and this thing can get going quickly by the right people at the right time. How do you see Joe Moorhead overall progressing in terms of building this program to where it really should be?
Yeah, what I really like to see is more local recruiting. We have Hoban right in our backyard, which is a huge powerhouse in Ohio. And I don't know the last time we had a Hoban guy at Akron, which is something that I always think of. I don't know how that's not happening. Moorhead's been active in the transfer portal, but if we could somehow find a way to get more local guys that stay at Akron for 4 years, and we make Akron a place where local kids want to come to play, I think that's how we start really turning this program around.
Sure. And then in that stadium, if they can fill that thing up, that's going to be a really tough place to play if they get to that point.
Yeah. And we just got, I don't know if you've seen it, we got our expanded video board. It's like doubled what it was before. Really? Yeah, InfoCision is awesome. Just need to play some better football there sometimes.
And the food in the press box.
Yeah.
Like that's near or at the top in the conference.
I haven't been to the other press boxes, but yeah, it's pretty good up there.
They take care of you. That's always a good stop. I know that. So you mentioned some of the keys to winning this game against OU. How do you see it playing out?
Just this game as a whole, like what do I predict? Mm-hmm. I think we'll come out slow, honestly. It seemed like against Ohio State, we came out, that was probably our best start of the year. I don't know if that's just feeling energized playing at the Shoe in Columbus. But against Colgate, we were down 17-0. It just seems like, unfortunately, we struggled coming out with the energy we need to right away. So if I had to predict, I feel like that would probably happen again, where we come out slow. Maybe Ohio takes a lead early. And hopefully we can establish something from there. But I think this will be a close, low-scoring game. I do see Ohio winning, unfortunately. But I do think we're in this game if we can establish our rushing attack and limit Ohio's rushing attack.
Gotcha. Okay, next up, we've got Tim Albin had his weekly, Ohio's head coach Tim Albin had his weekly press conference, and we've got some sound out of that where he talks about what to expect this week for the Bobcats.
Let's get into it.
The injuries are a concern, but we're going to continue to have the next man up mentality and get going. All right. So we're going to correct the mistakes from the Kentucky game and move on after today. We're past the 24 hours. Going into Akron, again, you look at, okay, well, it's Akron and their schedule. I'm sorry, their stats and their record. I say it every year. We start league play. You throw all this out because of who we're playing on conference. And they do a really good job. Coach Moorhead's done a great job there in his time. They have gone through some things with the portal, just like we have, looking at their roster. Offensively, there's a lot. They've got a lot of transfers on the 2D, as do we. And defensively, they returned some. They basically returned their front seven. They replaced their secondary. And so there's a lot of similarities with non-conference and a lot of similarities with the portal stuff. And it should be a heck of a game. It was a heck of a game last year against them, the season finale. And I'm anticipate the same thing. I do know, I'll end it with the best part is we're glad to be at home. And to be honest with you, so we have some guys available to us to play if we need it. But most importantly, it's homecoming, the best game day experience in our league with the best fans.
Great information there from Drew. It's obviously been a rough start to the season for the Zips. You like the fact that Akron came back from 17-0 against Colgate. You also are concerned that they were at home against an FCS team and fell behind 17-0. In the 3 lopsided losses to Ohio State, Rutgers, and South Carolina, there were some, if you look at the game in kind of small segments, there were some small victories you can kind of take out of those games. Obviously,
Sure.
the final score was not anything close to what the Zips wanted in any of those 3 games, but there were some bright spots that came out of all 3 games. I think this week this week could be the fresh start that the Zips need. This is the opening of MAC play. They're on the road against OU, and as Drew mentioned, Akron hasn't won in Athens in about 20 years. So this is a really, if I'm a vet on the Akron roster, I'm thinking, man, like, we have a blank slate starting conference play this week. We have a chance to do something that hasn't been done by our program in a really long time in beating OU. And we have a chance to kind of announce ourselves to the rest of the league that, we're going to be a force this year in MAC play. And so this is an opportunity, I think, for the Zips. And so now we are going to take a deeper dive into this matchup on both sides. And so our subscribers will have all the access to that. And we're also going to get into some bets that we like this week, both in this OU Akron game and some other games, some involving MAC programs and some not involving MAC programs.
If you are not an exclusive member of the Brawler Club, then you're not going to get this information. And we're asking that you actually do that now. Support the show and get everything that we do. The full-length interviews, we're going to start giving those away. All of this information, everything that we do, we compact the show into something bite-sized. But if you like it and you want more of this action, then you'll get everything. You can open up the doors to everything with an exclusive membership to the Brawlers Club. You can start there though. You don't even have to start there. You can start with the free show, and we'll connect with you. We'll start getting some of your questions or whatnot. We'll start interacting with you. But if you want everything, this is for the free club that you see here. The free club's there. You can get in that for free. But if you want everything, and including the information that we're about to give away, then you need to be part of this club, the exclusive MAC Yard Brawl Club, the Brawlers Club. That's where all the ballers hang out. That's where everybody that loves MAC action hangs out, and you can be part of that club to basically get all the information that we have, all the insider information that we have on this conference. So we definitely want you to do that. For those of you that are needing that, just make sure to scan this, go sign up for the Patreon, and then you'll have access to all of the secret and exclusive information that we do on this show. For all of those out there that love this show, make sure to tag a friend, tag a family member, let them know that the MAC Yard Brawl is what to watch. Follow us on YouTube, follow us on Rumble, Follow all of our social media, Threads, X, anywhere that you can find us, Instagram. Follow us on all the social media, and we will catch you again in the next show.
Thank you guys for joining us.